That middle rope. Spoiler, please go away.
Springboard bulldog?
What?
No!
Don't take. What do you mean?
Where's he? Oh my goodness, what a move by the Whisper.
What are you doing?
Tommy Vex is right on top of it. 1, 2, not quite. Oh, hello.
Scott invited me.
Okay.
I did not invite
Scott, you were causing me scene.
Did not invite
You were causing me scene. Don't embarrass me.
So tell me about the friendship you two. Oh, okay. I guess that won't be happening here. Okay. All right. Well, looks like we got some action a little bit too close for comfort for me here. Oh my goodness, Razor and oh my goodness! Right here at the commentary booth. I need to get out of here. I mean, right on top of Scott Holiday here.
What's your problem? What's your problem? What's your problem?
Do something about it.
And then there's action going on in the ring here. Tommy Vex and Ziggy Heim going at it, but right here behind me, the Spoiler and Scott Holiday are getting into it.
I hate the Spoiler. Let's plug in. So at the top of the show, I showed you a little clip from High Tension Wrestling Spring Breakdown 93, an event that we had a little while ago and is now available for free on the High Tension Wrestling YouTube page. So once you're done with this video, I want you to head over there and watch that one. At Best of the Best, CZW crowned a new CZW World Heavyweight Champion in Rich Swann. But I highly recommend you check out the event for yourself. Head on over to watchonpremiere.com where you can watch Best of the Best in full. Personally, it is worth watching just for Kid Bandit. Kid Bandit truly blew me away with her performance and is someone who I believe will be shaking the wrestling world very, very soon. But we had such a good time at Best of the Best. We are already heading back to Havre de Grace, Maryland on June 4th at the State Theater for Limelight 17. So please join us for a fantastic wrestling show. The doors open at 3, the bell rings at 4, and there you will see the big bad kaiju himself, O'Shea Edwards, taking on Troy Parker, who had this to say.
It was 3 months ago that I got to step foot in the combat zone for the very first time. Up until that point, Troy Parker had been the biggest fish in the smallest of ponds. It didn't matter if you were my peer. It didn't matter if you were a veteran. You could not touch me on my worst day. When I came to CZW, I was in culture shock. I found an environment that had talent that was on my level. I was in an environment that had veterans that were leaps and bounds better than me. And match after match, fight after fight, Troy Parker got better. I am doing nothing but improving day after day, and now I get the biggest challenge to date. O'Shea Edwards, you are the last true heavyweight in this business, and I need to beat you. I have done nothing but watch, admire, respect everything you have done. But on June 4th, it is me and you. On June 4th, once you're standing across from me in that ring, and once that bell rings, there will be no respect. There will be no admiration. I don't need this to be a learning experience. I need this to be a fight. Because everything I'm fighting for is being the best, being a future world champion, being among the greats of this industry. And O'Shea, it starts with you. You are going to get the best version of Troy Parker that has ever been. And if you do not bring the best version of O'Shea Edwards, I will beat you. June 4th, Havre de Grace, Maryland. There will be a fight, and there can only be one winner.
So you might have seen in the past video, I recently asked everyone to join me in Reading, Pennsylvania on June 10th for King Crab's Under the Sea Dance. I wanted everyone to go to prom, and I made this video inviting everyone to prom. We don't need to play it here. Good morning, wrestling fans. I'm Scott Holiday. I come here today with a very special invitation. Now, the High Tension Wrestling fans know that Enchantment Under the Sea is coming up in few short weeks. And those with dates are quickly making hair appointments, making signs, and finding tuxedos, dresses, or Edith Surreal t-shirts, buying tickets, and so on. However, I've noticed that those without dates have resigned themselves to the fact that they won't be attending the Enchantment Under the Sea. This troubles me. Now, King Crab's Enchantment Under the Sea is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Well, twice-in-a-lifetime opportunity if it draws well. And that shouldn't be passed up. And those that miss this opportunity will be forever left wondering, what if? But today, I'm here to tell you to live without regrets, especially you sassy Boatwright fans. Just because you don't have a date shouldn't prevent you from going to this milestone of your life. For those who feel uncomfortable going alone, I invite you to come with me. I'm getting a group of friends together to go as just that, friends. I offer a variety of tag partners and to enjoy the evening without emotional commitment. It will be a fun-filled night full of friendship and wrestling. Now, whether it's with me or somebody else or a group of friends or just by yourself, I urge you to attend today. Just introduce yourself to me. Even if I don't know you, it's a great way to meet new people. And, I'd be honored to meet you myself. And even if we collect enough money, the money that we save on corsages and boutonnieres could be spent on streamers for us to throw in the ring. It'll be a great night, I promise you. Allow me, in conclusion, to urge you to go to King Crab's Enchantment Under the Sea one final time, and to end on this note. Will you go to prom with me? But I made this video because I think everyone should go. I think it'll be a good time. And I got some attacks for making this video. People were saying it was cringe and people felt uncomfortable by the video. I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable. I just want everyone to go to the prom. So everyone should go to the prom. And on top of that, I actually have to rescind that invite to go as a group because after I put that video out, somebody asked me to prom. Yeah, I got a message on Twitter from a girl named Lori, and we're going to go to prom together. So I invite you all to come to prom, even if you don't have a date, or, just put yourself out there. Maybe someone will come a-knocking, and you can join us all at prom on June 10th, where you will see, in the main event, King Crab defend the Ray Doranis against Sonny Defarge, Rocket, Rob Racky, Killian McMurphy, and Al De Niro in a 6-way elimination match. Who will walk away from prom as the Ray Doranis? Also, last week we had to talk about how we had to uninvite someone to prom. Ethan Wilde, after attacking a sponsor, has been banned from King Crab's Enchantment Under the Sea. And because of that, he had this to say.
Shares are down in Wild LLC in after-hours trading. And why? Through no fault of my own. Philip Stamper, you've turned an asset against its angel investor? You banned me from Enchantment Under the Sea, but you know what? I've talked to the board. I've had to talk to shareholders. Their fears are assuaged. Because Wild LLC, if I may not be in attendance, Luca Mancini, Dylan Mesh certainly will be, and there's nothing you can do about it. And with my free time, maybe I'll go take a little off the top. I say no.
Yes, it's time to take another look at the far too big year-long You Pick 'em, where I ask contestants to predict what will happen from the Raw after Mania all the way to WrestleMania 40. And the first thing we got to talk about is CZW Best of the Best. I asked who would win CZW's Best of the Best, and I'm happy to report that the winner of Best of the Best and the new CZW World Heavyweight Champion is Rich Swann. I got to call this event. It was a fantastic time. Even though I just spoiled it for you, I recommend you give it a watch. You can check it out right now on the Premiere Network. Go watch on Premiere. But when it comes to this competition here, nobody had Rich Swann. As a matter of fact, I picked Griffin McCoy, and I was the only person to pick someone who appeared in the tournament. Other guesses included Lindsay Dorado, Jimmy Lloyd, Onita, and Sammy Callahan, all of which did not appear in Best of the Best. And Sophie Adams said, I say the viewers, but this is CZW. And to you I say, mean. Mean. Also want to bring up that this weekend is Night of Champions. Originally, this was going to be King and Queen of the Ring. Unfortunately, they have now changed it. So the way we are going to handle this is any question regarding King and Queen of the Ring that were outside of questions about that actual tournament will count for this event. So anyone who made guesses about King and Queen of the Ring, those responses will now correspond to Night of Champions. Unless, of course, they actually do a King and Queen of the Ring tournament. So we'll take those answers and we'll put them in a box, and we'll put that box right off screen. And if there happens to be a tournament, we'll go back to them and take a look. But for now, the questions related to that event that are non-tournament related will count for Night of Champions. So I'll be back here next week and we'll see who's in the lead. As of now, nothing changed. So I'm still in last place. So today on the Soapbox, I was looking around YouTube, just watching wrestling clips like I do, and I was on The Observer's YouTube channel, and The Observer had accidentally uploaded the wrong clip. They had it titled that it was some news about CM Punk, but it wasn't. It was Brian talking about a New Japan match and complaining about the referee reprimanding a wrestler for using a closed fist. I'm going to try to find it. If we can find it, editor Mike will play it now. If not, it'll be an image of me shrugging.
There's just things that they just have been done forever, so that's the way it's done. But when you really think about it, it's like, it's really stupid. And one of them is that you can't punch somebody with a closed fist. They're doing this match, and they're just absolutely brutalizing each other. And Julia punches her with a closed fist, and the ref gives her a warning twice. And I'm like, dude.
Hopefully you just saw the video I was talking about. And I find this complaint from a guy like Alvarez to be kind of strange. I think the fact that the closed fist is illegal is kind of straightforward. And I know a lot of people complain about the idea of a closed fist being illegal, but that's because no one ever gets disqualified for a closed fist. If we actually upheld the rules, then the rules would mean something. But because we don't uphold them, then they become silly. But the function of the closed fist being illegal does many, many things. And I'm going to break it down for you. Here's why the closed fist is illegal in pro wrestling. Number one, because it's wrestling. When the concept of professional wrestling was first created way back in the 1920s, you have to remember what it was trying to replicate, what it was a spin-off of, and that's amateur wrestling or Greco-Roman or freestyle wrestling. This was legitimate sport where people would grapple and try to pin each other's shoulders to the mat, and that's the crux of what pro wrestling is. And that didn't have strikes. So back in the 1920s, punching someone in the face would immediately make the crowd go, hey, that's not wrestling. They came to see a wrestling show, and what is this? Oh, he's kicking him? Ooh, that's illegal. So, of course, under the original ideas of professional wrestling, something like a closed fist would be banned because it's wrestling. And then as the sport evolved, it started to incorporate things from other types of combat sports like sumo. E Honda, he threw strikes, but they were always open fists. There was never a closed fist, they were always the palm strikes. So professional wrestling took that. You were allowed to strike your opponent now, but only with an open hand. A closed fist would still be illegal. This makes a lot of sense at the time. So in the starts of professional wrestling, it makes sense that there would be no closed fists. But of course, things evolve over time. That does not mean that you should make the closed fist legal. Because of number 2, kayfabe. Now, if you don't know what the word kayfabe means, I can't believe you found this channel, honestly. But if you don't know what kayfabe means, kayfabe is the idea of maintaining the legitimacy of professional wrestling. You don't want to let on that what is going on in the middle of the ring is not actually a legitimate competition. And when I say this, a lot of people will say, well, kayfabe is dead, and this, that, and the other thing. I would like to point out that you are still making the promise to the audience when you put on a professional wrestling show that you are going to keep to kayfabe. I can prove that. Let's say you sit down to watch a movie. You wouldn't want to see things in the movie like the director shouting cut, the actors walking around before they're in character, getting onto their spots, them pointing out that things are green screens. This is a green screen. I'm not actually in a colorful void. You wouldn't want to do that because it would break the legitimacy of the film. Now, of course, when you sit down to watch a blockbuster, you don't think it's a documentary. You don't think that Transformers are actually coming down and destroying the Earth, or that the Guardians of the Galaxy need to save the galaxy. You understand that. But for the 2 hours or so that you're watching this film, you do not want that illusion broken. The same way that most wrestling fans walk into a wrestling show, know that the show is scripted, you don't want to betray that until the show's over, because that's the contract you've entered by creating a wrestling show. So what does that have to do with a closed fist? Well, that's because your average wrestling fan has never been body slammed. They've never been suplexed. They've never been placed in a wrist lock or a figure 4 leg lock, maybe a figure 4 leg lock. Don't try this at home, kids, but I've tried it at home. I understand. But the point is that they don't know how a wrestling move actually feels because they've never been in a wrestling ring and experienced it. But most human beings know what a punch can do to the face. They know it hurts like hell. They know that it should immediately cause bruising and swelling. And basically, if you get a clean punch in, the fight is over. Like, once you get a clean shot to the jaw or to the nose, you're not climbing to the top rope to hit a shooting star press at that point. No, the wrestling fan knows what a punch feels like. So you should take the punch out of the equation, because including the punch means that you are either breaking the illusion or you need to deliver what should happen when you get punched. So if you were to say get punched in the face, you're not going to stand there dazed, not blocking, just standing there as they then proceed to punch you 2 more times and then do a little dance and then punch you a 4th time to send you to the mat. I honestly believe that the Road Dogg is one of the people who really destroyed the credibility of the closed fist as a reason for disqualification, because he would punch people all the time and his opponents wouldn't react in a way that is appropriate to being punched. And the referee might just do this, like, hey, open it up. But there would never be a disqualification. That action is lessening the quality of that rule. Like, now we're at the point where people use it as finishers. And you might be thinking, oh yeah, Big Show used to use it as a finisher. But I'm not too upset about the way Big Show used it as a finisher. I mean, his hand's like really big, and it always knocked you out. People reacted appropriately to the WMD, unlike other punches where they would just stand there and grin and take it. But he's not the person that I'm upset with. The person I'm upset with most when it comes to using the closed fist as a finisher is Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Back in WCW, Hacksaw used a closed fist as a finisher. And not just a closed fist, a taped closed fist. When he was ready to put his competitor away, he would reach into his trunk, pull out a foreign object, wrap his hand with it, and then punch a guy. And the ref would do nothing. This is a good rule that makes sense in the world of kayfabe, but it's gotta be enforced. And I think enforcing it, instead of just saying, the closed fist is legal now, is the way to go about it. And that's because of this. Number 3, heat. Now, I mentioned before that the average person knows what it feels like to be punched in the face. They also know things like fish hooks and getting poked in the eyes and scratching. They know how they feel. That's why it makes sense for a heel to use these things to get heat. To do things like poke your competitor in the eye or pull their hair. As a wrestling fan who's never been slammed, I know how much that sucks when you're poked in the eye or hit with a low blow. I know personally that was a devious thing to do, and that can get sympathy for the babyface. One of the best people to use this to get heat was Jerry Lawler. Jerry Lawler, wrestling that Memphis style, had a great way of working in just subtle jabs when the ref wasn't looking, or even if the ref was looking, and then try to explain that he used the palm of his hand. It was a fantastic way to draw the ire of the fans. But when he got to the WWE, even way back in the new age era, or even before that, the credibility of the closed fist had already diminished. So he changed his act and he had to work in a foreign object. He would reach into his tights, pull out something. It was in his closed fist, so you really didn't know what was in there. It could be buckshot or a roll of quarters. He would punch a guy with it and put it away. It wasn't enough to win the match. It wasn't a knockout. But every fan knew, he hit him with something. He's taking an unfair advantage. Boo this man. Let's go babyface. And on top of that, the moment that the babyface got just angry enough that he couldn't deal with it anymore, he could pop the heel back and everyone would light up. Because this is a justifiable revenge. We as the crowd, even though the ref didn't see it, we as the crowd saw the babyface get pummeled a few times already. We think, oh man, the heel deserves this. Pow! And that would create quite the stir in wrestling fans. Yeah, think about that. Getting a pop off a punch. Sounds a lot easier than doing a shooting star frog splash or whatever. You could easily just work in a punch. And it was actually taken to another step in Germany, where they call it catch. One of their gimmick might not be the right word, but something that would happen in a professional wrestling match would be called working the fine. A closed fist was illegal. Wouldn't get you disqualified, but it would get you fined. And you would see heels sneaking in punches, getting away with it, and not getting fined. To the point where the babyface would snap, punch the heel, and get caught. And now, the referee's gonna fine him $200. And the fans are like, but he deserved to be punched. I'll pay the fine for him. And fans would offer up their own money to pay the fine for the babyface. And of course, after the fans paid the fine for them, the heel, the babyface, and the referee would all split the money backstage. It was a way to, keep the coffers full, is by working the fine. This is something that we've lost by not enforcing this as illegal. Which brings me to my next point. Number 4, it was illegal. So you need to understand that when wrestling was first touring and becoming popular and the territory system, every state had different rules on what is acceptable in the world of professional wrestling. There was a time where New Jersey just banned wrestling outright. There was just no wrestling in the state of New Jersey. Maryland continues to be one of the most difficult states to run professional wrestling because they have a lot of laws on what can and cannot be done. And back when kayfabe was still alive, like people actually believed that wrestling was legitimate, there had to be some sort of commission in order to guide what was happening and what was allowed. And often, the commission that was in charge of professional wrestling was the same one that was in charge of things like boxing. In boxing, if you want to throw a punch, well, you better have a mitten on your hand. If you don't have a mitten on your hand, well, then what you're doing is illegal. So it was a lot easier to just say, oh, in professional wrestling, you can't punch someone. Because if you did, you got fined by the commission. It actually, this is something I came across in my research here. Bare knuckle boxing was illegal in every state until 2018, where it was legalized by Wyoming. So under Boxing Commission, you can't throw a closed fist. So it was actually illegal. So that's why they made it illegal in pro wrestling. And finally, carnivals. Now, if you look back in the history of wrestling, and I'm talking way back, before the WWE, before the WWF, before the WWF, way back in the days of William Muldoon, who was the original champion of wrestling, way back in the 1920s, way back when we're not even sure if his fights were actually scripted or if they were legitimate fights or not. Way back then, we have to talk about the origins of pro wrestling. The origins of pro wrestling come from carnivals. That's why wrestlers talk in carny. This is why wrestling fans are called marks, because customers would show up to carnivals, and if you had a lot of money, if you were someone that people playing these games or putting on shows could get some cash from, the ticket taker would actually put a little bit of chalk on your back. They would mark you as someone with a lot of money so that they would pay extra attention to you and try to get that money out of your pocket. And one of the ways they did this was with professional wrestling. There would be wrestlers that were basically the strongmen of the sideshows that would put on feats of strength. And one of those strengths was wrestling people. And sometimes, in some carnivals, they would wrestle members from the crowd. And these would be sort of legitimate fights, in that things were always in the advantage of the strongman. The strongman knew how to tie you up, he knew all the counters and how to end a match quickly, how to grab you and how to change your momentum. They were also told that if things were not going their way, they could stumble to the back and someone would be back there out of view of the crowd to hit the competitor over the head with a blackjack. Yeah, you ever wonder why the Blackjacks were a tag team? It's because Blackjacks had a big legacy in professional wrestling. And then the strongman would drag the competitor back from the backstage area and pin them in the middle of the ring. So to give advantages to the strongman to make sure that they would win, they had to take away the closed fist. Because you could see this even today. when you're watching Ultimate Fighting or some other kind of MMA. You would have a boxer versus a wrestler. And basically, anytime you had that fight, the commentators will say something like, if this goes to the ground, the wrestler will win. Because once the boxer is taken down, they are off their game, they don't know how to fight on the floor, and soon they will be submitting. But every boxer has a puncher's chance. If every time a boxer fights a wrestler, they only need one good one, and that wrestler will go down. So it's just a matter of time. Will they go to the floor, or will the boxer get that one shot in? And that remained true in the world of carnival wrestling. The strongman that was paid by the carnival knew it still could get that lucky shot in. So they would take that away from the contestant. It has to be grappling. There are no strikes, because strikes would even up the playing field. So the closed fist had to be illegal. So there you have it. That's why the closed fist is illegal, because of kayfabe, because of the history of what professional wrestling is, because it's a way to get heat in the world of professional wrestling, because of the laws and the commissions in place, and so carnival scam artists wouldn't get punched in the face. That's why it's illegal. And I honestly think that if you started enforcing the closed fist as illegal, you could get a lot of value out of that rule. But what do you think? What do you think of the closed fist rule? Do you think it's archaic and should be removed, or something that we should stress more? And if you're interested in any of the things that I was saying, I learned a lot of this when I was training to be a professional wrestler. A professional wrestler. I never became a professional wrestler. That's why I can't say it right. And also from a seminar with Al Snow. Al Snow is a great person to learn the craft of professional wrestling from. I'll try to include a video somewhere to his speech on it, because it's absolutely phenomenal. I highly recommend, if you have any questions about professional wrestling, look up some Al Snow videos. He is a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much for joining me as we talk about the history of closing your hand. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if this is the type of video you guys enjoy, and I will do more of these. And I will see you all next time. And I hope you have a great day.